Welcome to Steeped in Wellness, brought to you by Matcha.com. Here we spill the tea on wellness trends, personal growth, and the latest health news. Now, here are your hosts, licensed dietitian Diana Weil and medical journalist Elara and Jon.
Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Steeped in Wellness. As you can probably see or hear, unfortunately, my co-host Diana is not with us today. She has come down with a bad stomach flu situation, coincidentally related on her son's first birthday. She feels really bad about it, but we're going to power through. We're just going to have Jon, our amazing producer, step up to the plate today. We have a very special guest with us today, Caitlin Wilder. She's a mom, doula, lactation consultant, podcaster herself, and the founder of Wilder Beginnings. After experiencing 2 peaceful and empowered births with the help of her own doula, Caitlin felt that she had to pay it forward. She dove headfirst into birth and postpartum education, becoming a full-spectrum doula and showing up for moms in their most raw, real, and transformative moments of their lives. Through Wilder Beginnings, she's built a super powerful online space where she shares the unfiltered truth about postpartum and motherhood, the messy, the hilarious, the heartbreaking, the beautiful, so parents everywhere feel a little more seen, supported, and empowered. Welcome, Caitlin.
Wow, thank you. What a bio. That was really fantastic and made me feel great about myself. So thank you for that.
Since I'm filling in for Diana today, Diana always says when someone reads your bio, it sounds like it's like the same feeling as when somebody sings you happy birthday. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, I was just sitting here like, oh my God, I don't know how I'm supposed to respond. But then also I wanted to like clap for myself at part of it because I was like, this is great. Like, can somebody walk around saying that for me all the time?
A total rock star. So the way that I came across you, Caitlin, was I have a 1.5-year-old that I had back at the end of December 2023. And of course, like with your first birth and pregnancy, you're just like looking and reading so much stuff. You're just like, you can't get enough information, or at least me, because I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. And Caitlin's content on her Instagram, specifically Wilder Beginnings, was just like this breath of fresh air from everything else I was seeing online that just felt very real and raw. And it specifically really related to me in your journey postpartum with like breastfeeding. I remember finding something like a video of like normal pumps, and it was like, you like smell the pump amounts. Cause like, and how you were just like, yeah, like I'm breastfeeding, but it doesn't mean I'm enjoying it. And that for me, just like, I was like, yes, like I'm doing this, but this is not like the magical, wonderful, mystical experience everyone is describing.
Right. Yeah, I feel like my Instagram, I try to kind of just present the middle ground of things. There's so much, especially in parenting and then parenting content of black and white. You're either having the greatest time of your life or you're clinically depressed, or you've made breastfeeding your entire personality and it's the greatest thing you've ever done, or you're giving formula and you never even tried it. And there was just nothing in the middle ground of like, I'm doing things, I'm not loving them, but I'm doing them, and here we are. And it was something I wished I had had as a first-time mom, and I just one day picked up my phone and was like, well, I guess I'm just gonna, you lose your mind a little bit when you have a baby and you're just stuck in the same 4 walls with just a baby potato who's not giving anything back to you, especially at the beginning. And I was like, I'm just gonna talk to the internet. And I forgot people were there, and it was just a release, and I was truly just sharing my own experiences. And so it means so much when people say, like you said, that you connected with it and it made you feel seen. And that really is so cool to me, that I'm having those connections with people and I don't even realize it. And it wasn't even something I was trying to do.
I'm going to zoom out for a second, because aside from just motherhood, that seems to be one of the major ills of social media to begin with. Everybody's putting their best foot forward. Everybody looks like they're having the best life ever. And then you start comparing, the person you went to high school with and haven't talked to in 20 years, and you follow them on Instagram or Facebook, and you see what's going on. It's like, no, there's, I think, a real thirst on social media now for people to just be real. And it, like, to both of your points, it fosters connection that way.
Yeah, and it's so hard when you have a baby too, because like you said, Jon, that comparison is natural. Everyone's doing that. But then when you have a baby and you are so lost, and it's also so important to you to do the best job, I think that's what gets lost too. Like, every mom just wants to do the absolute best job that they possibly can. So when you see somebody that's like, this is what I'm doing and this is the results, and you're not having the same results, maybe your baby doesn't sleep as well, you're immediately comparing yourself to that person, thinking what they're then doing is right and what you were doing is wrong. And it's It's so hard. And I tell people all the time, like, the door isn't locked on social media. You don't have to follow. The greatest gift you can give yourself is just like getting familiar with that mute or unfollow button.
Amen.
And just do not follow those people that make you feel that way, that make you feel bad, because you don't deserve that, and you don't deserve to do that to yourself.
I guess that's also gets to my point of like, I have had some preconceived notions about doulas because of the doulas that were showing up on my feed.
Totally.
I didn't work with a doula the first time around because I was really turned off by what I saw. I was just like, well, like, what if, like, once again, I feel like I fall in that middle ground. Like,
Yeah.
if need be, like, maybe it's a C-section, it's epidural. Like, am I a failure if I don't, like, breathe through it and hold my, like, pain comb and, do everything and, like, manage to labor at home and, like, become 7 centimeters dilated before going to the hospital? Like,
Yeah. It's such a good point. And I actually was just talking to another LA doula because I feel like doulas in LA don't like me and that I'm not part of their community because I'm not super, I support anybody in whatever they want to do. If you want to go to the hospital at 1 centimeter and get an epidural, then like, God bless, do whatever you want to do. If you don't care about your birth preferences, I don't care about them either then, as long as, we've talked about them. And there is this similar in LA. It's like there are some doulas who won't work with you if you want to have a hospital birth, or some doulas who won't work with you if you say you want to get an epidural. And that is just not my vibe. And I feel like in the birth space, there's not a lot of meeting women where they are. And I think especially millennial women are trying to find their way in that middle ground where maybe there's some pieces of the more natural birth that appeals to them and there's some pieces of that, but they're feeling like they have to pick a side. And I feel like that's all over social media too, in everything really. It's like we're not allowed to have nuance anymore in anything. And it's, you have to pick a side, you have to plant your flag. So it's, I'm deciding before I have a baby, I'm going to breastfeed and I'm going to do it now no matter what, because I told people I was going to do it and I'm never going to change my mind. I said I didn't want an epidural before I had a baby. So now I can't go back on that, even though I'm suffering because I had to pick a side and plant my flag. And I feel like there are people in the social media space that foster that, and it's horrible. And there are definitely doulas. I mean, there's also like people on Instagram that refer to themselves as lactivists, which are lactation activists. Jon, there's so much you don't know that's happening on mom Instagram.
Get ready, Jon.
Yeah.
I'm going back to your suggestion about the mute button. Okay.
Yeah,
I was like, put your phone on airplane mode, or else like all this stuff is going to be in your discovery soon.
Oh my God, the phone's always listening. Yes.
Yeah, you're going to get some weird lactivist pages coming up on your Instagram.
Caitlin, I've got to say, I feel like in a lot of ways you have the deck stacked against you because you, like you said, social media in all topics is black and white, no shades of gray. And then on top of that, and I don't want to stereotype, I know you grew up in California, but this LA mindset of things have to be a certain way and be perceived a certain way. And, I wonder if you wouldn't have some of that headwind if you were in Milwaukee.
Yeah, I think you're right. And it definitely is a product of where I am. I do think for some reason, I've been really blessed with a natural ability of degaffing, which is do not give a, I won't say the last word.
You can swear here.
Okay, do not give a fuck.
The Dillagaff. Do I look like I give a fuck, right?
Yeah. Like, it just, maybe I'm able to really compartmentalize, but I just don't care what anybody else thinks. And I don't care if anybody thinks I'm doing the wrong thing or they don't like what I'm saying or doing, because I know in my heart everything I'm posting or sharing or thinking or saying is coming from a very pure place of wanting to find just that one mom that needed to see that today. And that's all I think about. And, if the lactivists are coming for me, but one mom saw that and thought, oh my gosh, I can give formula to my baby and I'm not going to feel bad about it. That's the person I'm thinking of, not the people who are going to tell me I'm doing it all wrong or listen, it took a lot to get there. I'm not acting like this was easy breezy, but that's kind of where the headspace I come from because I just can't take anything. I can't take it on. I don't have the time.
So you said that for your 2 births, you worked with a doula. Did you work with the same doula?
I did. So my doula was Catherine Deeb. She's amazing. She lives in Florida. If there's anybody listening in Florida, I actually flew her out from Florida for my second birth because I just was so connected to her. And my son I had 4.5 years ago. So it was pretty early. It was February 2021. So still very COVID times. I gave birth on a Monday, and Friday was the first day they let doulas back in the hospital since COVID had started. So having her there, because my husband was allowed to be there, but nobody else was allowed to be there. I felt obviously very bonded to her. She also was just she's like stunning and has tattoos. She's just the coolest person ever, where after I had my son, I was like, I will have a baby again just to force you to hang out with me because I love you so much. And she was like, please, you're scaring me.
But how did you find her?
So I used to work at Bravo, the network, and I had 2 coworkers who used her, and they recommended her. And I had a really hard time finding somebody I liked because, like we were talking about in LA, a lot of them are very woo, very crunchy, very natural. And while I appreciated aspects of that, that's not me. Again, I'm like the middle person. And so I wanted somebody, and Catherine's like a badass rock star, and she was not that way at all. And I felt so connected to her. And I tell people all the time, when you're talking to a doula or trying to find a doula to use, it's not about how many births someone's been to. It's about who do you want in the room with you while you are having a baby? Who do you want to be spending time with? Who do you connect with personally? That's what matters more. When I found out I was pregnant with my daughter, I said, you have to come. I have to have you there. And I kept having this vision, and I would text her and say, it's going to be you and I. We're going to be so in this together. Like, you are who I'm seeing. And spoiler alert, my husband actually didn't even make my birth because it happened so fast. So it literally was just my doula and I. So if she hadn't been there, I don't know what would have happened.
But how did let's roll back the clock. So you flew her in. So how did that work?
So I flew her in. I flew her in 2 weeks early. She is really good friends with Lori Bregman, who's a big LA doula. She was my doula mentor. And Lori let her stay for 2 weeks before my due date and just kind of hung out and waited for me to go into labor.
How did it happen so quickly that your husband couldn't get there in time? I gotta have to ask.
Yeah. So second babies, for lack of a better way to say it, just fly out of you sometimes. It seems like your body.
Laura, are you paying attention?
Yeah.
But I'm not too fast where it just rips me.
No, it won't do that, but it will be. Okay. It is faster. And I was very obsessed with what was happening with my son. I wanted him to have. It's why a lot of second-time moms or other plus-time moms have scheduled inductions, because you're really worried about the childcare and the normalcy of your other kids. So I was really obsessed with my son. I didn't want him to wake up in the morning and me and my husband be gone and my mother-in-law be here, and he would be so scared by that. So I went into labor at midnight, convinced myself I wasn't in labor, didn't tell anyone I was in labor, pretended I wasn't because I was like, I'm going to get my son to school and then I'll tell everyone I'm in labor. It's going to be fine. It's not a problem.
Priorities.
So at 6 a.m., my husband had been sleeping in a different room because, pregnancy, you're up all the time, whatever. And he comes in and in the middle of a contraction, and he's like, what is going on in here? And I was like, I'm in labor. I actually think I'm feeling like I need to start pushing. I think I really misplayed this and did not handle this correctly. This is very LA specific too. Where my doula was up in the hills far away. So I also had traffic logistics in my mind, which is so LA specific. And eventually I told my husband, you have to take our son to school. I said, you need to call my sister. She needs to drive me to the hospital. Traffic is coming. To get to the hospital, we have to take a 1-lane canyon road. So if you're in traffic, you're going to have your baby in the canyon because you can't go anywhere else. So my sister comes and picks me up. She finds me in the shower, and I'm saying, I'm pushing. I'm laughing because I'm I can't believe I did this to everyone. This is so horrible.
But at this point, you've done some doula, you are a trained doula yourself.
No, I'm literally a full doula at this point. But it's I've been at 15 births already by this point. I was doing the exact opposite of anything anybody should be doing. My poor doula was like, what's going on? And I said, I think I mishandled this. I might give birth in the car. And she was like, okay, you need to bring towels with you in the car because you need, I mean, to the point that I was getting supplies for my sister to have to help me deliver my baby in the car. So I get in the car. My sister is driving me. I'm, I had wanted to have an unmedicated birth. So I had really prepared for that. So a lot of people will actually have unplanned, unmedicated second labors because it's fast and it can be traumatizing for them. For me, that was actually what I had wanted to have happen. I got to the hospital. I was 9 centimeters dilated. From the second we pulled the parking ticket to get into the parking lot, I had given birth 20 minutes exactly later. So
Holy cow.
There was my doctor didn't make it. My husband didn't make it. My doula had gotten to the hospital and was waiting in the parking lot for us. She put me in a wheelchair. I'm sitting backwards in a wheelchair, like being pushed around. I'll never forget. So it was 20 minutes. We got into the parking lot. I had a contraction in the car, so we waited for that. I get into the elevator, and there's a police officer. And when you're in labor too, you're like out of your mind. I said to the police officer, oh, thank God you can deliver my baby. He immediately pressed the next floor and got off the elevator. He didn't say anything to me. He was like, I'm not interested in this experience at all.
You'd think they'd be trained for something like this, but not out of the blue like that.
He's like, no, thank you. It's like 7 a.m. I haven't had my coffee. Like, this is not what I'm here for today. So it ended up actually being a dream birth for me, minus my husband not being there. But it was so crazy because this whole time I had just felt like it was going to be, and I would text my doula and say, it's you and I keep envisioning. And I'm like, I'm sure my husband's somewhere in the room, but for some reason it's really you and I that I'm picking up on. And it turned out it was because he didn't even make it.
Okay, one more layperson question here.
Yeah.
Did your sister have any kind of training at all that she would have been prepared to help you should baby have arrived in the vehicle?
Okay, no, but
who had that training, Jon?
Yeah. She's not like an EMT or a doctor.
Yeah.
I will say she is a therapist, and it was so much better to have her than my husband because she knows how to calm people down. She knows how to deal with people who are mentally unwell in certain moments, who are panicking. My husband would have been like running red lights and aggressive. And my sister was just like, do you want me to turn the air on? Like, you're doing fantastic. Is there any music you want to listen to? It was actually highly recommend if you're going to give birth in a car to have a therapist with you because she really kept me calm and like focused and centered.
No, I think that's really good. I would also, honestly, if I could choose what's going to happen in the next few weeks, it would be something very similar where I just naturally go into labor. Things happen so fast that like, I don't even get a chance to decide like epidural, no epidural. It's just like, nope, like it's going down. I get there and then the baby's out like sooner than later.
Yeah, it actually was, minus the fear of the car birth, it really was my dream birth scenario because that was exactly what I wanted. I wanted a hospital birth, but I didn't want to be in the hospital I didn't want a hospital labor, if that makes sense. So to get there and, have the most important part happen in the hospital, but to have been able to labor at home comfortably was really a dream scenario.
So my first birth is a scheduled C-section because he was breech. My first guy was breech. So like I didn't really have a choice. They were just like, we're scheduling you. They wanted me to do it at 39 weeks. I was like, no, like when is the most you'll let me push it?
Yeah.
And then I just ended up going in for a scheduled C on my due date. I was like 3 centimeters dilated, but like I never went into labor. So like, I guess a part of me, and I always think maybe this is a selfish part of me, like really wants to experience birth this time. Yeah. Even though a lot of my doctors, like in the group that I go to, have been just pressuring me to just schedule the C-section. They're just like,
that's horrible.
Yeah, they're like, just schedule it. Like you have a toddler, like toddler care, like think about them. And I'm just like, no, like it was a horrendous aftermath. And then I thought of like having a C-section, not being able to hold my toddler. I'm like, no, thank you.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate that a lot of doctors are like that. Instead of saying to you, hey, you have an opportunity to have a VBAC. That's amazing. Here's what you should do. Let's do this. I believe in you and I believe in you that you can do this and have this experience. That's what our doctors should be doing, not just saying schedule the C-section.
Yeah, listen to the patient. And VBAC, for those who don't know, vaginal birth after C-section.
There you go, Jon.
Jon knows what's up. But like even today, I had like one of my weekly check-ins where you go in, you get your good old cervical check, John, where they see how dilated you are. They make you go on the scale. They take your blood pressure. And she was like, so like, do we have something scheduled for you? Like, do you have a scheduled C-section?
Jeez.
That is crazy.
And I was like, well, I did because like I got really pressured 2-3 weeks ago. And like, I'm not trained. Like, I'm not a doula. I'm not an EMT. I don't know anything. So like, you kind of fall under the pressure of like, okay, I guess I should just do what the experts are telling me to do. And then I kind of was like, no, like I'm going to cancel that and I'm going to like wait it out.
Good for you.
Yeah. And she brought it up again today and I was just like, no. And they kind of like look at you like, you know, why are you being difficult? Like, why are you being a difficult patient? And I'm like, am I being selfish in this?
No, not at all. It's crazy. And it's wild to me too. That's the thing that frustrates me about, well, I won't go into all that, but that's what doulas are so amazing for, is it's somebody to bounce that off of, to say, hey, this is what the doctor is saying to me. What do you think? And as a doula, I can't tell you don't do it or do it. I am not a doctor. I know that there's a limit to, you know, my scope of what I'm comfortable saying. But I can absolutely say, no, you don't need to be scheduling a C-section. You don't, you know, unless there's certain things that would disqualify you from a VBAC. But you don't know. We're all raised to be so deferential to doctors, and we don't ever want to be the quote unquote difficult patient. So a doctor is telling us something and we think, oh, of course I have to do exactly what the doctor is saying. And you would hope that your doctor has your best interest in mind, but they don't always. They also have ease in their mind. They have money that they want to make. They have their own schedule that they want to know.
Liability.
Like, all
liability.
of that.
Well, so John knows this story. We did like a podcast on like my postpartum, like post-birth story. I ended up developing postpartum preeclampsia.
Oh,
so shitty, right? And so part of it was they put me on a mag drip and they were like, all right, like we're going to stick a catheter in you because we need to monitor your liquids. And I was like, no, you don't have to do that. Like,
wow.
I can just pee in a pan and like you can measure it that way. And they were like, no. And I just was like, no, you can do it that way. And I was like, don't worry. I volunteered my husband. I was like, Peter will do it. Like,
yeah,
he'll bring the pan over to me. And I just remember like they were so mean to me. Like when I made that decision, and I was like, I don't want to end up having something else wrong with me with like going through all of this.
I had to go on magnesium also right after I had my son. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to have an unmedicated second birth, because people that have not been on magnesium do not understand how horrible it is. And I'll never forget with my son, and maybe this was different with you or similar, but because it was right after I had my son, so we were still in the hospital, I wasn't allowed to be alone with him. So if my husband was like getting in the shower or wanted to go get coffee, I wasn't allowed to hold him by myself. The nurses had to come take the baby or be in the room. I couldn't see. I couldn't eat. I hadn't eaten anything for like 72 hours. It's horrible.
So what is it about the magnesium?
So it's supposed to, it dilates every blood vessel basically in your body, because it's to keep you from having a stroke essentially, because of from having that, from the high blood pressure. So because you can't, it makes you like really shaky. You can't walk on it. So that's why they want to do the catheter, because it's not safe for you to get up out of bed and go to the bathroom. Yeah. So that's also too why you can't see, because the blood vessels in your eyes are really dilated, and they don't want you to eat in case something goes wrong and you get sick. So it's just, you're so out of it. It's crazy.
It's a miserable experience. And I remember just being so stressed because they put me on it about like 4 days postpartum. Like it was like I had been cleared up until the third day, and my insurance like happened to cover 4 days. So my husband was like, just stay another day. And then that's when everything kind of went out of whack. And I remember just freaking out of like, how is this going to impact my breastfeeding and my nursing? Like if I'm not able to eat, like how am I going to nourish the baby? Like, am I going to have to give the baby formula? Like it just kind of spiraled, and I just was like chugging. I had my Stanley cup, my 40-ounce Stanley cup that I was chugging. My poor husband was grabbing the pan like every hour because I was like definitely overhydrating. And then I was like, fighting them. I'm like, I need to eat something. I'm like, bone broth. I'm like, bring me bone broth. But yeah, it was not a fun experience, and I'm hoping that I won't have to do it this time around. Did you have to do it with your daughter?
No, so luckily I took baby aspirin every day. I was so happy to do that because my number one goal was avoiding magnesium. Like that was the only thing I cared about. So I did the baby aspirin. I had a blood pressure cuff at home that I was measuring. And then also that helped too, because I do think I had a little bit of white coat syndrome where, because I was so worried. Yeah, I was so freaked out about it. Every time I would go to the doctor then, my blood pressure would skyrocket. So I was always taking my blood pressure at home so I could share that. But thankfully, because of that, I was able to avoid it.
That's awesome. Yeah. Like I remember it was like they had me in the hospital. It was like 7 days. And then it just got to the point where I definitely had white coat syndrome.
Yeah.
I was just like, every time the nurse or doctor came in the room, I just was so anxious. And then luckily I had there's good nurses and then there's great nurses.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a great nurse who came in and kind of like read the room. And I was just crying to her. I was like, I just want to go home with my baby. I don't want to be here anymore. I hate this hospital bed. I want my own clothes. I want my own house. Like I miss my dogs. And she was like, okay, this is what we're going to do. Like they had one of the like cuffs that would just take my blood pressure without like the doctor doing it. And she was like, I'm going to leave. And like, you can just have your husband press the button. And it was just like, lo and behold, like every time he would do it, it would like lower, a little bit lower, a little bit lower. And then they finally let me out. They ended up putting me on like a low grade blood pressure medication, but I went off of it after 2 weeks. And I'm convinced that like it just had to do with me being extremely stressed and just like not sleeping at all.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, and also too, like postpartum preeclampsia is very serious. Like it's not something to mess around with. And it is, as much as you hate magnesium, it's like it could literally save your life. Like that's one of the biggest reasons why like people die after they have their baby is because of postpartum preeclampsia and blood pressure. So it is definitely serious, but I do think then the way it is treated adds to it, because you also, I couldn't imagine being in the hospital for that many extra days after having a baby.
Yeah.
Being that freaked out and scared. Like in no way then are you going to be able to calm your body down.
Exactly. And to your point too, of like, you can't be alone with your baby. Like you're kind of missing out on that bonding.
Yeah.
And on top of it, like I had the C-section. So it's like, I wasn't able to like get up at any point in time really, or like change the baby. So
okay, so you are going to have an easy breezy, chill, low blood pressure, second birth, no medication if you don't want it. It's going to be totally redemptive.
yes, that's what we're working towards.
Are we manifesting that now?
That's
Yes.
what we're manifesting. Yeah. Yeah. We had a manifesting expert on the podcast a few weeks ago. And like, since
I love that.
talking to her, I've been like every night before bed, I've been just visualizing just that. Like,
Oh, yeah. I'm so into manifesting. I love that.
and then the other big thing that I'm trying to not do with my first pregnancy was like the obsession over nursing and breast milk. And like, I need to have an oversupply and like, I need to free. I'm so over it. I keep telling everyone, I'm like, look, I'm not going to maybe do the extreme of like not even trying to nurse, but like, I'm just going to go with the flow. And like, I would almost rather have a lower supply that I am from the get-go supplementing with formula, just so I don't feel that pressure of being like the sole food source for my baby.
Totally. The amount of pressure we put on ourselves when it comes to breastfeeding and that other people put on us, and that you feel like you have to have a quote unquote legitimate reason to not breastfeed or to choose formula is crazy. Like your mental health is the most legitimate of reasons. And if that is something that would contribute to having a more positive postpartum experience of using formula, then you should absolutely do that.
No, absolutely. What did you like kind of find from going from 1 to 2 with like breastfeeding journey number 1 versus number 2?
Truly the biggest difference for me was knowing about tongue ties. So my son had a tongue tie, a very severe tongue tie, and he lost a lot of weight after birth, had a really hard time gaining weight back because of his tongue tie. I had to triple feed, which is when you nurse, pump, and then give what you pumped or what you supplement every 2 to 3 hours. I mean, triple feeding is horrible. And I didn't know, in your mind, you think your breastfeeding is going to be just so easy and you're on the couch and you're doing it anywhere. And I was somebody who I had to have like my props. I had to have my nursing pillow. I had to do compressions, all of that. And with my son, I felt like that's wrong. That's not the right way to do it. That's not the right journey. And with my daughter, I felt the opposite. I was like, this is great. This is what works for us. We're going to do that. I had very little stress about it. I didn't care. I didn't care how long I did it. And then it gets to the thing where I kept doing it and I didn't love it. I've never been one of those people that's like, breastfeeding is my whole personality. Like I just, which, more power to you if that's you, I guess. But that was not me. And I always would say I was like the most apathetic soldier in a battle I didn't really care about. But I was like putting myself through all of these things to be able to keep successfully breastfeeding. And it was nice and the connection was sweet. But it was just something I did. And to be totally honest, part of the reason I kept doing it was because it's just so much cheaper than formula. And I was like, I'd like to save this money. So I guess I'll just keep breastfeeding her until she gets past at least 6 months and can start eating.
Also, it's like you don't have to deal with like all the sterilization of the
Oh my God,
bottles
yeah.
and the cleaning and the
all of
warming. Miserable. How did your son deal with you breastfeeding your daughter?
Well, I will be honest, he was in school. He was in preschool or daycare. So he wasn't around a lot during the day, which I talked about this on my own podcast. I think and I understand how expensive childcare is. Like I live in LA, believe me, I get that. If you have the ability to send your first child to a daycare or a preschool, that's an amazing thing to do for both of you. I think a lot of people think, well, my son's home, my other kid is home. I should be able to take care of both of them. I don't want to send my first kid away. It's like, no, you're actually doing a great thing because your kid is now going to an environment where they're learning, they're around other kids, they're having a great time. You're able to focus on the baby. They're excited about being around their friends and not just feeling like they're losing all of your attention. I know some people had said too that when they have a baby and they breastfeed their older child, all of a sudden will want to start breastfeeding again. And I was like, if my son starts doing that, I'm not down for that. That is not something I'm trying to have happen. Like, absolutely not. Thank God he was not interested in that at all. Because little kids will regress in some way when a new baby's around. So I know some kids, for some moms, their older child, if they were potty trained, will start having more accidents. The only thing my son wanted was that he wanted to like drink milk out of a bottle. And I was like, sure, dude, if that's your journey, that's easy enough for me. If that's how you need to regress here, like, here's your bottle, go for it. Like, don't try to come up on me. That's not happening. We're still using the bathroom correctly. Here's your bottle. God bless. And that was, so when I would feed the baby, sometimes he would say he wanted milk and I would just get him a bottle with milk and it was easy breezy.
What was the age difference? Like, how old was he when she was born?
They are almost 3 years apart. So my son was like 2 years and 8 months.
Okay. Yeah. So my guy's going to be like 1.5 years. And Diana was actually out here visiting, what was it? Like 1 month ago, basically. And she was still breastfeeding her son, who now just turned 1. And it was like the first time my guy, Koa, had been around, the baby, because I stopped around 6 months. And he was kind of like, huh.
Oh,
that's interesting. He was like, huh. And he was like approaching her and like pointing, like, huh. I was like, going to lift up her shirt. And I was like, oh my God, what are you doing? This is so embarrassing.
Oh, wow. So you're going to be tandem breastfeeding?
No, absolutely not. I really don't want to. That's like my concern is I'm just like, he has like lost interest in my nipples and chest. And then suddenly after seeing Diana breastfeeding, all of a sudden now he's like, what's up? Like, what's going on? And I'm like, during bath time and stuff, because I get in the bath with him, I've been wearing a bra because he's been going for the nipples, not like putting his mouth, but just like he's intrigued with what's happening there.
Right.
Yeah.
You're begging me to make a joke about the guy's going to be interested in nipples for the rest of his life from now on, but I'll back off.
Oh my God.
But I will just say he might want to breastfeed when he sees you breastfeeding the baby. Like that is a legitimate thing. I do think it's going to be a challenge.
I do think it's going to be a challenge. And, as of right now, like he doesn't really like watch much like television and screen time other than like I make him watch like Planet Earth, like with Spanish audio. But I think that's going to change. I think we're going to start introducing like screen time when I'm breastfeeding. It's going to be like, here you go. Like have your time. Like
enjoy
that's kind of my...
Yeah.
I'm going to give him whatever he wants. And like to your point, like if he asks for milk, like we're bring him back out the nipple bottle. Like, here you go, buddy.
Absolutely. And I feel like too, screen time is such a great tool. And it's at this point in time, you're trying to survive. You have a newborn baby and you have a 1.5 years old. People that act like, oh, you don't need to use screens. You can give them a quiet basket with books to look at. I'm like, okay, well, you never met my son because First of all, if I put him in a room and said, you're going to do quiet time with my baby, he would like Kool-Aid Man style, like break through the wall with like a body shape, because he would not be doing that. So if you have to do TV, that is such a great solution and option. Absolutely do that.
Well, we'll have to define the Kool-Aid thing for the Gen Zers listening.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's like, even like honestly, like the last couple weeks, like your third trimester, like you get fucking tired. And like, I have been tired. Like it is hot that like I have been slowly, like there's been more time like migrating to the couch and being like, all right, like let's turn on the television for 10 minutes. Like, let's just spend this time together. And quite frankly, like my son he's like his eating journey, like the nursing journey, eating journey. It's like herding cats. Like it's like he's running around. He's never just sitting in a chair calmly eating. And like this morning, for example, like he actually and like ate a plate of like chicken and not like a freaking yogurt pack. Yeah, like while watching something on the screen. Like, and it was great. It was glorious, you know? Like amazing. It was awesome. And Jon knows, like I was very like, I'm gonna try and not do the screen thing, but to your point, like it's very useful sometimes.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be forever. It's not like every single meal now for the rest of his life he's going to have a screen. When you get to the stage where you feel like you can set boundaries around that again, then you do it then. And that's great. You're not going to damage. Both of my children were basically raised with the back catalog of Bravo on the whole time that they were little babies, and that might cause some damage down the line. But I don't think anything else, they're going to be fine.
I'll one up you, Caitlin. So my guilty pleasure as like a mom, I guess, like that keeps me through my like depressive doldrums is like fairy smut books, like, you know, the Fourth Wing and stuff. And my husband's like, you are crazy, because like I'll listen to it like in my car, on my CarPlay, like with him in the car seat. And Peter, my husband's like, you are damaging his brain. Like all he does is listen to
fairy smut.
Yeah, like Zodiac Academy. And I'm like, you know, I think it's fine. He's really happy in the car with me. He's like not screaming. He's chilling. He's like looking around at the traffic. Like it is what it is.
I love that.
Yeah.
Listen, we're all doing our best.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so switching gears slightly, one of the things I'm a little afraid of that I've like been obsessing over is like sleeping arrangements from 1 to 2. Like my guy has just started like sleeping in his own room, like in his bed, like some nights sleeping through the night. It's like been awesome after being like a pretty hard journey. And then like his brother's room is technically next to his room, but like right now it's our guest room. And like I hired a maternity nurse. I had a maternity nurse the first time, like could not recommend it more. I would not have survived. So she's going to be ideally, once the baby arrives, like staying in the back bedroom with the newborn. And then like his room is next door, and I'm like, he can't sleep there anymore because like the baby's gonna wake up crying and then wake him up. So I'm gonna like, my plan is to shift him back into my room where like he can stay in bed with me and my husband / I have a floor crib bed situation. Like, what did you do?
Well, I would say first, I mean, does your son have like white noise?
He has white noise. Like
he might not wake up from the baby. I don't think that's guaranteed. I would almost say, I feel like if you just successfully moved your son into his room, keep him in there.
Yeah.
Don't move him back into your room and then back in there again.
Okay. So try and see if he'll stay. Because like I have dogs and like they bark and freak out in the middle of the night, and like sometimes he'll rouse, but then like he can put himself back to sleep.
Yeah. I would say just try that. But for me, my son similarly was not a great sleeper. And he slept in his own room, but he would get up and all of that. And I said to my husband, I cannot have the fear of my son waking up while having a newborn. So my husband basically moved into my son's room and slept in my son's room. And I had the baby in my room. And that worked out for us perfectly because my son slept, my husband slept. As somebody who was breastfeeding, there was nothing my husband could do for me in the middle of the night except just like bother me that he was sleeping through crying. So I was happier to have him out. I handled everything with the baby, and then it was perfect because he was rested in the morning. So at 6 a.m. he could come take the baby and I could sleep. So it didn't make sense to me to have two people not sleeping.
Agreed.
When only one of us was really doing anything in the middle of the night. And I think people get in this like weird obsession of, you have to sleep in the same bed as your spouse and all of that. And I think that's very weird that people care where other people's spouses are sleeping, especially when you have young kids. And that is the best way for everybody to get sleep, is if it's broken up.
I agree. We're like, right now, the setup we have is like, we have his room. He has like his toddler bed, and then literally like next to his bed, we have like a floor mattress.
Yeah, we did
so
that.
Like, it's like he has good nights and bad nights. So like sometimes we're not in there. Last night I was in there for like probably 60% of the night, you know?
Yeah.
Or like my husband will be in there. So like part of me is also thinking like, yeah, just bring the baby in with me. Because to your point, if I'm nursing and stuff, why does he need to be there? Like it will just bother me. He has like restless leg syndrome, and like he'll wake me up. So just put him in the room with my first son, and like that way everyone's getting sleep.
Yeah, I think that is such an underrated move, and that was a reason why I think my second postpartum with sleep was so much better too, because I knew my husband was getting sleep, my son was getting sleep. So then again, it was, to me, those like 2 hours early in the morning was all I needed. Even if I had had a horrible night, if I got those 2 hours from like 6 or 7 a.m. on, I was fantastic. And that could only happen again because I knew my husband was getting good sleep, because my son was getting good sleep. So that's what I always recommend to people. Again, very lucky that I was breastfeeding, and it would be a different story if I was having to be making formula bottles in the middle of the night, or washing bottles in the middle of the night, or having to deal with pump parts and all of that. But if you can swing that, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, that's the ultimate thing. And like to your point, like, so right now my son isn't in daycare. Like I have a nanny who comes, but she comes at 6:30 in the morning. So it's like, it's amazing.
That
it's
is nice.
And she decided that because she lives like about 50 minutes away. And so she gets here before rush hour.
Smart.
Yeah. And then it's just great because I kind of like have that in my head where I'm like, look, even if I have a completely shit night where he like wakes up and pops off for like 2-3 hours, like I know I can just be like, hey, you guys hang out.
Yeah.
I am going to sleep for just 2 hours before I start my day.
Oh, that's going to be key.
Do you have other recommendations in terms of like, what are like little ways that you can reset and like get energy?
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest things, and probably my daughter didn't sleep as well, but I never felt exhausted with her. I never felt like I'm not sleeping at all. I didn't track whenever the baby woke up in the middle of the night. I'd never looked at the clock, because the second you wake up and you're like, oh my God, I was awake 14 times last night, I was awake for this amount of time, you're telling yourself you're tired and exhausted. If you wake up and you're like, I don't know, I was awake, I don't know how long I was awake, it is what it is, like on we go, you were not getting in that loop of I was up so many times, I was exhausted. It's just something you don't even know and you don't even think about. So if you can't hyper focus on I was awake so much, I swear to God, it is so helpful. So like, do not look at clocks when your baby wakes up. Do not track how often your baby has woken up or for how long. I also, for me, mentally, I wouldn't count like the length of chunks. I would count the overall sleep. So if I got 6 hours of sleep, maybe it was broken up in 3 2-hour chunks, but I would still wake up and say, okay, I got 6 hours of sleep last night. That's not bad for having a newborn. And thinking about it that way versus, oh my God, I only slept 2 hours like 3 times. It just, something about it was a really helpful mental shift that made me feel not as exhausted. And my number one tip was I would go to bed at like 7 p.m. So whenever I put that the baby down, I would immediately go to bed, because babies sleep the best. That first chunk is always going to be the longest. So if you're putting your baby down at 8, but you're not getting to bed until 10 or 10:30, you're missing 2 hours of sleep you could have gotten, and then the rest of the night is not going to be as great. So go to bed as early as you can. You will, it's really hard. I totally got it. It was a situation I had to grieve of that time, like on the couch with your spouse, watching TV, connecting. And it was hard to let that go, but I just told myself, like, this isn't going to be forever. I can go 3 months without watching TV. I will get back on the couch, but I need to be doing this right now because I need to kind of like collect as much sleep as I can from wherever little pocket I can get it. And that was super helpful.
We did a previous episode and we talked about sleep trackers and all those wearables and everything and how they horribly inaccurate they are.
Yeah.
You had a horrible night's sleep last night. Really? I feel fine. You had a
Yeah.
great night's sleep last night. I feel terrible. So even independent of babies, like, don't look at the data. Just kind of go by feel. It sounds like is what you're saying, Caitlin.
Absolutely. And then even to your point, John, if you saw something that said you had a horrible night's sleep, then in your head you would be like, oh, I guess I am a little tired, or oh, I did have a bad night's sleep. And all of a sudden it's like perpetuating. Whereas if you had no idea, you wouldn't even be thinking of it. You would just be going along with your business. So I hate all of that. I hate tracking. I hate anybody just pretend none of that is going on and you'll be so much better off.
Yeah. But to your point, I think that some people really struggle with letting go of their time at the end of the day, where it's like you have that feeling of like, okay, the baby is finally asleep. They're probably going to be asleep for at least 3 hours. Like, this is my time. This is my time to like spend some time with my spouse, be able to focus on them. And it's just like, to your point, like, you're just so exhausted. Like,
Yeah.
your best interest is just to go to sleep. And I definitely struggled with that, like, for the first few months postpartum. And like, now something that I've really tried to take ownership of in my third trimester is just like, when he goes to sleep, I am going to sleep.
Yeah.
Like, I'm laying in my bed. I will, like, fall asleep listening to my audiobook, but like, I'm not just going to sit around. Like, and it's tough. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, it is tough at times. And like, it is hard on a relationship, but I think that like, if your relationship is strong and stuff, right? Like your husband, your partner, they're going to understand that.
Yeah. I actually shared something about that today because I think so many people talk about how when you have a baby and you and your partner, husband, whatever, get into this roommate phase and how everybody says it's so bad and you don't want to be in the roommate phase. And I'm like, the roommate phase is amazing. It's, to me, a sign of a healthy relationship, that your relationship can have those ebbs and flows where you're like, yeah, our focus isn't on romance and going on dates and connecting like that. Our focus is on us getting through a very difficult time together and supporting each other. I've had people in my comments before say things like, oh, well, you're going to be divorced in 20 years if like you do that, or how could that be a sign of a healthy relationship? And I'm like, to me, if your relationship can't survive 3 months of not watching TV together or not being intimate together, then your relationship isn't good. Like, that's the problem to me, not the people that are like, hey, I understand that's going on the back burner, but we're in this together and we will get out of that and come back stronger. I could go off on that, but yeah, it is hard. I get it. You will miss your spouse, but it's not bad. It is a very short period of time. And I think there's so much on the internet that will tell you that that's wrong, that's bad. So you get in your head. But when you're in it, you're thinking, this isn't that bad, but everybody's told me that it is bad. So maybe I should feel upset about it. And again, it's like the tracker thing. If you didn't have that in your head of this isn't what you should be doing, you wouldn't think anything of it. You would think this is working for my family and it's great and it's what we're doing. But we have all of these like negative other people's opinions or thoughts making us doubt what we're doing.
100%. I mean, it's a game changer where I love like getting to bed early. And then if like my husband, like he's a bit more of a night owl, if he wants to stay up, watch something, do something, I'm like, great. And I've had like a lot of friends be like, oh, it's so weird that like you guys don't like go to sleep together. I'm like, why the fuck do we need to go to sleep together?
That's so crazy.
I'm like, I don't care. Like, watching TV, like it doesn't impact me. I'm like, at the end of the day, after experiencing extreme sleep deprivation, which I think is just like the mortal nemesis, it's like the worst. It just makes you into the worst version of yourself. Like, I'm going to do anything I can to just avoid.
Absolutely.
I just need as much like energy, and I just need to fill up my cup as best as I can to just even have those positive interactions. Like, I'd rather be rested and just be grateful and wake up and not be like, oh my God, I'm like an absolute crazy version of myself. Like, let me project onto you versus like.
Also, we could have fallen asleep at the same time together. Like,
what? Who does?
Yeah.
So like, what? I don't care. Like, it's just, it's not something that I'm obsessing over. And then I think the other thing that people fall into is like, like there's a quota and then it becomes a chore, right? And then that builds resentment. So just do what feels natural.
Yeah. And what everybody else is telling you need to do for a healthy relationship is dumb.
Yeah, agree. Usually, Caitlin, at the end of our episodes, we tend to ask our guests 2 questions, which I have not prepped you for.
Okay, great.
But John, do you want to dish out one of the questions today?
Oh, geez. I'm so used to the two of you asking.
I know, but you always are like, oh, you could have done it this or that. So I want to see how you pitch it, John.
I gotta think back to what they are, because normally I'm just sitting here and I let you do it for 30,
It's like,
40
this is the stage where I'm totally checked out and I'm scrolling on my TikTok.
I'm like,
right
John,
now.
are you not paying attention anymore?
All right. What is one piece of advice that you've been given over the years by somebody? It can be related to this topic or anything else that you really have taken with you?
I would say immediately the first thing that I thought of was my mom, when I had my son, told me that I didn't have to be entertaining him as a baby all the time, and that one of the best things you can do for a baby is just lay them on the ground in a safe space and let them just look around and get out of their face and let them see what they want to see instead of what you are forcing them to see, and let them hear natural sounds instead of you thinking you have to be singing songs to them all the time. And for some reason, that was such a weight off of me of I can just let my baby be a baby and do whatever he wants to do, see whatever he wants to see. So that was I would say it's the first time I ever got good advice from my mom, because I was 32 when I had my son. But that was definitely the first time where I thought, oh, wow, that actually really connects with me. And that has really shaped my entire parenting philosophy.
I love that. Oh my God. It just made me think back to having flashbacks of when my son was 2 months old and me just shaking things and bright and being turn this way, you're going to have a flat head.
Yeah.
If you don't turn your head and
Yeah, it's a legit thing. It's called blue sky thinking. And it's all about how important it is to just let your brain, see a blue sky. And then where does your brain go from there? And what do you think about from there? And how we're not letting our kids and our babies do that because we're so obsessed with micromanaging every second for them. And how that's you would think, oh, I'm not entertaining them, I'm missing out on something. And it's not giving them that chance is actually so much more detrimental. So that has been, like I said, probably the most impactful parenting piece of advice for sure.
And just giving them a safe place to do it and letting them have their blue sky. I love that.
Don't put them on the couch and then walk away. Make sure they're, okay.
In a safe place. Yeah. In my case, because I have big dogs, I'd make sure that they're kind of pinned in so a dog isn't going to step on their face.
Exactly.
I will be trying with this guy for sure. So second question, what is a lesson or just something that comes to mind that you felt you learned it the hard way? You kind of did it wrong to realize how to maybe approach it differently.
Trusting myself and not thinking that other people know again, this is parenting again, not thinking that other people know what's right for me or my baby more than I do. And for me, my first postpartum, I put so much power in the hands of random quote unquote experts on Instagram and sleep trainers and all of this. And it ruined my first postpartum because I was so obsessed with what they said I should be doing and what they're saying other babies are doing, and that if I don't do this, then I'm going to ruin that, or that's going to be this bad thing. And I was so worked up in it. I just feel like I mentally completely missed my son's postpartum. I didn't enjoy any of it. And kind of like I had said earlier, the door is not locked, realizing that I didn't have to take that in. Those people aren't experts on my baby. That my son picked me for me, and not because he thought I'd be the best at following some random person on Instagram and then stressing out about it. That's not why he chose me to be his mom. But that was a hard lesson. And I do feel like I a little bit sacrificed on my first postpartum and his first couple of months to that lesson. But I am so thankful that I learned that, because I didn't experience any of that my second time. It has completely changed who I am, again, in general, as a parent and as a person. And that was just such a powerful lesson that I wish I didn't have to learn that way, but it is what it is. And I'm very thankful that I did.
I can totally relate to that. And I mentioned before in the podcast that I worked with a maternity nurse the first time around postpartum for the first couple weeks after birth, which it was very wonderful in some ways, but also reflecting back, I just completely defaulted to whatever she told me.
Yeah.
Like it was just like, do not feed on demand. Do not like let the baby sleep on you. Do not do too much skin to skin contact or else like that's the only way that they'll sleep. Like, all these like do's and do nots. And I'm still working with the same maternity nurse, but this time I'm kind of going into it with my own mommy confidence of like, I'm going to do what I feel like doing. And like, I'm working with her and she is working with me to support her.
We've kind of brought this full circle because we started the podcast talking about the doctor and blindly following every doctor's without challenging it with your own feelings and concerns. And now we've come back around to, stick up for yourself. That's what I've taken out of this conversation with Caitlin today.
But it's like your point, like we are the mothers, like we I guess to an extent, innately, we know what's best and to trust our instincts.
Totally. And advocate for yourself.
Absolutely. So Caitlin, if someone wants to work with you as their doula, / follow you and just hear more of what's going on, how would they do that?
Yeah. So my Instagram is Wilder Beginnings. That's where you can find me on Instagram. My website is wilderbeginnings.com. I don't have any current doula clients. I'm a little bit taking a break just because it's very hard with 2 young kids to be on call. And the last birth I did, I was awake for over 40 hours. So that is a little bit difficult. So I'm taking a bit of a break from that, but you can find me on my Instagram. You can find me at You're So Right, my podcast with my friend Rachel, who is also, she's amazing on Instagram. I guess she's at Hey Sleepy Baby. I'll plug her too. Why not? So those are all of the places that you can find me.
Amazing. Well, Caitlin, we hope to have you back on again sometime soon. And it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much. This was so much fun. I loved also having Jon here. That was an unexpected twist for me, but it was fantastic.
Then I guess I could do the sign out because Diana's not here.
Yeah.
Come back next week for another episode of Steeped in Wellness. Sip, savor, and live well with new episodes of Steeped in Wellness every Wednesday. Follow our show for free on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you're listening right now. Leave your questions and comments below. Find us on Instagram at Steeped in Wellness Podcast, or for more, click on matcha.com.